Keanu thought the night would be simple, just a quiet visit to his mother. But when she whispered the words he had waited a lifetime to hear, his world shifted. Tears fell, yet hidden in her eyes was something she had never told him. And before he could understand, the doorbell rang. A stranger stood there, carrying the truth that would change everything. The night was quiet in Los Angeles. Rain tapped gently against the windows of a small house where Keanu Reeves sat alone. The world outside knew him as a star, a man who had faced loss and pain, yet still carried himself with humility and kindness. But in that room, he was not the actor, not the hero on the screen. He was only a son, waiting for a voice he had not heard in a long time. His phone vibrated. A message appeared. It was short, almost too simple, but it froze him. "I want to see you tomorrow." It was from his mother. Keanu leaned back, his breath uneven. Memories rushed in like a storm. His childhood, the struggles, the sacrifices his mother had made when they had nothing. He remembered nights when they ate little, but she told stories that made the hunger softer. He remembered how she worked endless hours so that he could dream freely. But life had kept them apart. Years of fame, films, and tragedies had left spaces between their conversations. He always told himself there would be time, but time has a way of slipping away unnoticed. The next morning, he arrived at her house. It was small, filled with old photographs, books, and the smell of fresh tea. When she opened the door, she looked older than he remembered, her face lined with years of quiet endurance. Still, her eyes carried the same warmth. "Come in," she said softly. They sat together in the living room. Silence held them for a moment, a silence full of everything unsaid. Keanu tried to speak, but his voice caught. Finally, she reached out and touched his hand. "I watched you all these years," she whispered. "I saw your struggles. I saw your pain. But I also saw how you never let the world take away your kindness. And today I want to tell you something I should have said long ago." Her voice trembled. "I'm proud of you." The words hit him like a wave. His chest tightened, his eyes burned. He had faced critics, losses, and heartbreaks, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Tears fell before he could stop them. His mother held his hand tighter. "You carried pain with such dignity, Keanu. You gave the world your heart when you could have closed it. You are my son, and you are my pride." Keanu lowered his head, unable to hold back the flood of emotions. In that quiet room, the actor disappeared, and only the son remained, broken, grateful, and overwhelmed by the weight of love. But beneath the warmth of that moment, another truth rested quietly. He felt guilt. Guilt for the distance, for the words he had not spoken, for the time they had lost. And deep inside, he feared this moment might not last. That fear planted a question in his heart. Why now? Why did his mother choose this day to finally speak the words he had longed to hear? He searched her face, and in her eyes he found not just pride, but also something hidden, a shadow. The suspense grew in his chest. What was she holding back? The room was filled with a stillness that pressed against Keanu's chest. He sat across from his mother, her frail fingers still wrapped gently around his hand. She had just told him the words he had waited his entire life to hear. And yet the silence that followed carried a weight far heavier than any applause or award he had ever known. He tried to smile, but something about her eyes unsettled him. Behind the warmth, there was a flicker of hesitation, like she wanted to say more but couldn't bring herself to speak. "Mom," he whispered, his voice unsteady. "Why did you call me here today?" She looked down at the floor, her breath trembling. "Because sometimes time does not wait. And I do not want to leave this world without telling you how much you mean to me." Keanu's throat tightened. The words struck him like a blade. His body stiffened, his mind raced. "Leave this world?" The thought alone filled him with panic. "Don't say that," he said quickly, almost begging. "You're strong. You've always been strong. You'll be fine." She smiled softly, a mother's smile, the kind that tries to protect even in the face of truth. "Strength does not last forever, my son. But love does." Her words sank deep into him. He wanted to believe she would be fine, that she was just speaking with caution. But something inside told him the truth was different, and the truth frightened him. To break the heavy air, his mother stood slowly, walked to the small wooden cabinet by the window and pulled out a box. It was worn, its corners frayed, its color faded with years. She placed it on the table between them. "This is for you," she said. Keanu stared at it. He reached out with shaking hands, lifted the lid, and inside were photographs, letters, and scraps of memories he had forgotten. Pictures of his childhood, notes from school, drawings he had made as a boy. His mother had saved everything, even the pieces of paper he thought worthless. And at the bottom, there was one envelope sealed and untouched. "Open it," she whispered. His fingers hesitated. His heart pounded. He carefully tore it open and pulled out a letter written in her handwriting. The ink was uneven, as if her hands had trembled while writing. "My son, if you are reading this, it means I could not speak all the words my heart carried. I want you to know that every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every tear I shed was worth it because it was for you. You are not only my son, you are my light. I am proud beyond measure. Never let the world change your heart. It is your kindness that makes you who you are. Love, Mom." Keanu pressed the paper to his chest. His tears fell freely now. But as he read the last line, he noticed faint words scribbled at the bottom, almost hidden. "There is something else you must know, something I never told you." He froze. His breath quickened. "Mom, what is this?" She looked at him with eyes heavy with both love and sorrow. "You deserve the truth even if it breaks your heart." Keanu leaned forward, his voice trembling. "What truth?" Her lips quivered as if the words themselves carried unbearable weight. "Your father? The story I told you about him. It was not the whole truth." His body went cold. His mind began to race back through memories of a man he had barely known, a shadow in his life. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice low, almost desperate. His mother took his hand again. "Sit with me. I will tell you everything." Keanu's heart pounded so loud he thought it might burst. In that small, quiet house, a secret buried for decades was about to surface. He felt the world tilt, as if the ground beneath him was about to break open. And just as she was about to speak, the doorbell rang. The sound shattered the moment like glass. His mother's hand trembled. Her face grew pale. "Who is that?" Keanu asked, his voice sharp with unease. She shook her head. "I didn't expect anyone." The bell rang again, louder this time, echoing through the room. Keanu stood slowly, wiping his eyes, his body tense. He walked toward the door with hesitant steps, every sound of the bell making his heart beat faster. He reached the handle, pulled it open, and froze. Outside stood a stranger, a man whose face he had never seen before, but whose eyes felt painfully familiar. The man looked directly at Keanu and said, "I've been waiting a long time to see you." Keanu stood frozen at the doorway, the rain still falling lightly behind the man who had just spoken. The stranger's eyes carried a strange weight, as if they had witnessed years of silence and hidden truths. Keanu's breath caught in his throat. "Who are you?" Keanu asked, his voice tight with unease. The man's lips curved into a faint smile, but there was no joy in it, only sorrow. "Someone you were never told about. Someone who has waited far too long." Keanu's stomach twisted. Behind him, his mother shifted in her chair, her frail hands clutching the arms of the seat. She looked terrified, as if the past had finally broken through the walls she had built for decades. "Mom," Keanu whispered, not taking his eyes off the man. "Do you know him?" Her silence was enough of an answer. Her eyes filled with tears and her head lowered in shame. The man stepped closer, but Keanu raised a hand, his body tense. "Stay where you are." "Tell me who you are." The stranger took a deep breath. "My name is Michael, and I am your brother." The words hit like a strike of lightning. Keanu stumbled back a step, his chest tightening. He turned quickly toward his mother, his voice breaking. "What is he saying? Is this true?" She covered her face with her trembling hands. Her body shook as tears escaped. "Keanu, I wanted to protect you. I wanted to keep your life simple, free from the pain I carried. But yes, it is true, the world tilted." Keanu's mind spun with memories of his lonely childhood, of nights he longed for connection, of questions about family he never dared to ask. And now, standing in front of him, was the answer he never knew existed. "You're lying," Keanu whispered, his voice caught between disbelief and fear. Michael shook his head slowly. I wish I was. I have lived most of my life in shadows, watching you from a distance, wondering if I would ever get the chance to speak to you. But when I heard your mother's health was fading, I knew time had run out. I couldn't stay silent any longer. Keanu's hands trembled. His mother tried to rise from the chair, her weak body struggling, but her voice was clear despite her exhaustion. It was my choice. I thought I was protecting you, Keanu. I thought giving you one path, one life would be kinder than giving you a family broken by secrets. You let me believe I was alone, Keanu said, his voice raw. All those years, you let me carry the weight of silence, when I had a brother I never even knew. His mother's tears spilled freely. I did it because I thought love was enough. I thought you didn't need the truth. But I was wrong. Keanu turned back toward Michael. His eyes studied the man standing at the door. The lines on his face, the strength in his shoulders, the sadness buried in his gaze. If you're my brother, Keanu said, his voice shaking, where have you been all this time? Why didn't you come sooner? Michael looked down, his voice heavy with regret. Because I was told to stay away. Your mother wanted you to grow without confusion, and I respected that. Until now. The words sliced through the room like a blade. Keanu's heart pounded in his chest. The anger in him fought with the hope he had buried long ago. The hope of belonging, the hope of family. The silence stretched, thick and unbearable. Finally, Keanu stepped aside, his voice quiet but firm. Come in. Michael entered slowly, his shoes wet from the rain. The moment he crossed the threshold, it felt as if two worlds collided. The life Keanu had lived and the one he had been denied. They sat in the small living room. His mother wiped her tears, her fragile body trembling. The air was heavy with secrets, and none of them knew where to begin. Keanu broke the silence. So what now? What do you want from me? Michael leaned forward, his eyes steady. I don't want your fame, your money, or anything you've built. I only want one thing. I want the chance to be your brother, to share with you the years we lost, to give you back the family you thought you never had. The sincerity in his voice cut through Keanu's anger, but his heart was torn. Part of him longed to accept, to fill the emptiness he had carried all his life. Yet another part of him screamed with betrayal, with the pain of his mother's silence, with the fear that trusting would only bring more hurt. His mother reached out weakly, her hand trembling as it touched Keanu's arm. Forgive me, my son. I never wanted this pain for you. But if you can find it in your heart, don't let my mistake steal from you the gift of family. Keanu's eyes filled again with tears. He looked at Michael, then at his mother. The room spun with emotions, anger, sorrow, hope, and fear, all fighting inside him. He whispered to himself, almost too softly to hear, After everything? Am I ready to trust again? Before he could answer, Michael reached into his coat pocket and placed a folded piece of paper on the table. This, Michael said quietly, is the part of the truth you have not heard, and it will change everything you think you know about your past. Keanu's fingers hovered above the folded paper on the table. The room was so silent that even the sound of the rain tapping against the glass seemed deafening. His heart pounded as if it already knew the words inside would not just answer questions. They would tear open wounds he had buried for years. His mother shifted in her chair, her frail body trembling as though she already regretted what was about to be revealed. Michael sat across from him, his gaze steady but filled with sorrow, like a man who had carried a secret for far too long. With a deep breath, Keanu picked up the paper and slowly unfolded it. The handwriting was rough, hurried, and filled with smudges, as if written in moments of pain. To my son, if these words reach you, it means I never found the courage to speak them myself. The truth you were told about your father was never complete. He was not the man you believed him to be. He lived a life of shadows, and his choices tore apart more than one family. You were not his only child. Michael is your blood, and you must know this. Forgive me for keeping it from you, but I feared what the truth would do to your heart. Keanu's hands trembled as the paper shook between his fingers. His eyes scanned the words again and again, unable to fully believe them. He felt the weight of betrayal pressing down on him. He looked up, his voice cracking. So all this time, Everything I believed about him, about us, was a lie. His mother's eyes filled with tears. Not a lie, Keanu, but not the whole truth either. I wanted to protect you from his mistakes. I wanted you to believe in hope, not in the broken pieces he left behind. Keanu leaned back, running a hand through his hair, his mind spinning. And you, he said, turning sharply to Michael, you knew all this time? You knew we were brothers? Michael lowered his gaze. Yes, I knew, but I respected her wish to keep it hidden. Do you know how hard it was to watch you from afar? To see you carry so much pain and not be able to stand beside you as family? Anger boiled inside Keanu. He slammed the letter onto the table, his voice raw. You let me grow up believing I was alone. You let me bury myself in silence and grief while you stood in the shadows. Michael's own voice cracked, his fists tightening. Do you think it was easy for me? Every time I saw you, I wanted to run to you to tell you the truth. But I promised her I wouldn't. I kept that promise because I thought it was what she needed. But it killed me, Keanu. It killed me every single day. The air thickened with tension. The three of them caught between love, betrayal, and regret. Keanu's mother, her voice fragile, finally spoke. Both of you are victims of choices I made. If there is anger, let it fall on me, not on each other. But her words did little to calm the storm inside Keanu. He stood up and walked to the window, staring into the rain. His reflection looked back at him, broken, uncertain, and lost. Do you know what it feels like? He said quietly. To spend years building walls around your heart. To convince yourself that kindness and humility are enough to survive. And then to discover that the people you trusted most were hiding the very thing you longed for. His voice rose, heavy with grief. I carried loneliness like a second skin. I thought it was my fate. And now you tell me it didn't have to be that way? His mother began to sob softly, her frail shoulders shaking. Michael closed his eyes, his face etched with guilt. After a long silence, Keanu turned back to them. His eyes, though filled with tears, carried a sharp determination. I don't know if I can forgive this. Not yet. But I need to understand. I need to know everything. No more secrets. No more half-truths. Michael nodded slowly. Then you should know this. Our father, he's not gone. The words struck Keanu like a thunderclap. He staggered back, his breath stolen from him. What? What did you just say? Michael's eyes locked onto his. He's alive, and he's been searching for you. Keanu's mother gasped, her hand clutching her chest as if the very air had betrayed her. No, she whispered. You promised me you would never tell him. Keanu's voice shook with disbelief. Alive all these years? You let me believe he was gone? His mother's tears fell harder. Because he is not the man you think he is. He brings nothing but pain. I wanted to keep you safe from him, but Michael's voice cut through her words. Safe or not, he is part of us. And he is closer than you realize. Keanu's body trembled. His chest rose and fell in sharp breaths. He felt the world collapsing around him. Everything he thought he knew about himself, his family, his past, shattered in moments. Where is he? Keanu demanded, his voice filled with fury and desperation. Michael looked at him, his expression unreadable. If you want the truth, you'll have to meet him yourself. The night stretched long after Michael's words fell into the room. The father Keanu believed dead, alive. The thought ripped through his mind like a storm tearing apart a fragile shelter. His chest ached, his breathing heavy. All he could hear was the echo of his own heartbeat, colliding with the rain that struck harder against the windows. His mother whispered weakly, her voice trembling with both fear and pain. Keanu, please, don't go looking for him. There are wounds better left closed. But Keanu turned toward her, his eyes burning. How can you ask me to stay silent? All my life I carried emptiness, questions that never found answers. I was told he was gone and I believed it. And now you tell me he's alive? I can't live with that shadow. I need to see him. I need to know who he really is. Michael stepped forward, his face caught between regret and resolve. If you want to meet him, I can take you. But you must be ready. He is not the man you hope he will be. He carries darkness. And that darkness will try to pull you under. Keanu's fists clenched at his sides. Then let him try. I have lived with storms all my life. If he is my father, I will face him. The silence that followed was suffocating. His mother covered her face, her sobs filling the room. She whispered over and over, "Forgive me, forgive me. I only wanted to protect you." Keanu knelt by her side, holding her frail hands. "Mom, I love you, but you can't protect me from truth anymore. I need to carry it even if it breaks me." Her tears glistened on his skin. She nodded slowly, her eyes full of sorrow. "Then promise me no matter what he says, no matter what pain he stirs, you will not lose the man you are. You are kind, you are humble, you are good. Never let him take that from you." Keanu pressed his forehead against her hand. "I promise." The following evening, Michael led Keanu through the dim streets of the city. They drove in silence, the hum of the car the only sound between them. Outside, the night was heavy, the air damp with mist. Keanu's mind was a battlefield, part of him filled with fear, part of him burning with determination. Finally, they stopped in front of an old building on the edge of town. Its walls were cracked, its lights faint and flickering. The place looked forgotten, like a memory buried too deep in the ground. Michael turned to him. "He's inside. I'll wait here. This is your moment." Keanu opened the door slowly, his heart hammering in his chest. Every step toward the entrance felt like walking deeper into a storm. When he pushed the door open, the smell of dust and old wood hit him. The room was dimly lit by a single lamp, and in the corner sat a man, tall, broad-shouldered, his hair gray, his face worn with time. His eyes lifted slowly, and when they met Keanu's, the room seemed to stop breathing. "You came," the man said, his voice low, rough, carrying the weight of years. Keanu froze. Those eyes. He had seen them once before, long ago, in blurred memories of childhood. "Are you—" Keanu's voice cracked. "Are you my father?" The man stood, his presence heavy, his shadow stretching across the room. "Yes, I am, though I do not deserve to be called that." Anger and sorrow surged through Keanu at once. "All my life I believed you were gone. I grieved a man who wasn't even dead. Why?" His father's eyes dropped, his jaw tightening. "Because the man I was would have only destroyed you. I was weak, selfish. I made mistakes that tore families apart. I thought disappearing would save you from me." Keanu stepped closer, his voice rising with fury. "You let me grow up alone. You let me believe I was abandoned by both love and truth. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" The old man's shoulders sagged, his voice breaking. "Every day I thought of you. Every day I wanted to return. But shame chained me. And when I finally searched for you, you had already become a man far greater than I ever was. I had no right to step into your light with my shadows." Keanu's body shook with emotion. "You don't get to decide that. You don't get to vanish and then appear when it suits you. You don't get to choose when I'm ready to know the truth. That was never yours to decide." His father's eyes filled with tears, but he did not step closer. "You are right, and I cannot undo the past. But I want only one thing before I leave this world. I want you to know that I loved you, even when I was not there. My absence was not because you weren't worthy, it was because I wasn't." Keanu's breath caught. The words twisted inside him. He wanted to hate this man, to curse him, to walk away and never look back. But deep inside, a small part of him ached for the truth he had longed for his whole life. "If you loved me," Keanu whispered, his voice breaking, "then why do I feel like love abandoned me?" The old man's tears finally fell. "Because sometimes love, when broken, looks like abandonment. And I am guilty of that. But look at you, Keanu. Look at the man you became. Despite me, despite the silence, you grew into someone I could never be. And for that, I am proud." Those words struck him like a mirror to his soul. Words echoing the same pride his mother had spoken only days before. Keanu's chest heaved, torn between rage and the longing to believe. He felt his hands trembling, his heart heavy, his soul split in two. Before he could speak, the old man stepped closer, his eyes full of sorrow. "I cannot ask you to forgive me. I cannot even ask you to accept me. But please, let me carry this truth with me. Let me leave this world knowing you heard it from my own lips. You were always my son, and I was always proud, even in silence." Keanu's tears streamed freely now. his body shaking, and in that moment, he realized the choice before him was not about the past, but about the man he wanted to be in the future. Keanu stood in the dim light of that broken room, his heart beating like thunder against his ribs. His father's words hung heavy in the air, words that were both a confession and a plea. I was always proud, even in silence. The weight of them pressed on Keanu's chest. Anger burned in him like fire, but beneath it, sorrow pulled like an ocean tide. Every part of him wanted to scream, to shout about the years of loneliness, the years of questions that never found answers. But another part of him, quieter, softer, heard the trembling in his father's voice, saw the cracks in his old hands, and wondered if forgiveness was not weakness but strength. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, fighting the storm inside. Then he opened them and whispered, "You hurt me more than anyone else ever could. You left me in shadows when I needed your light, and nothing can change that." His father's shoulders sank, as if those words had broken what little strength he had left. He lowered his gaze, ready to accept rejection, ready to walk away carrying the same shame he had carried all his life. But Keanu stepped forward. His voice shook, his eyes wet with tears. "And yet, if I hold on to this anger, then I become the man I swore I'd never be. I cannot undo the past. Neither can you. But I can choose who I am today. And today, I choose not to hate you." His father lifted his eyes, disbelief flooding them. You would give me that mercy?" Keanu's lips quivered. "Not mercy. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But I will give you truth. You are my father, and I cannot erase that. But what I can do is live in a way that breaks the chain of silence and abandonment. I can be better. I can give to the world what you could not give to me." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then his father broke into tears, his body shaking. He reached forward as if to embrace him, but stopped halfway, uncertain if he had the right. Keanu looked at him, his eyes heavy with pain, but also with resolve. Slowly, he stepped closer and placed a hand on his father's shoulder. It was not warm, not filled with joy, but it was real. It was a bridge, fragile and trembling, but a bridge nonetheless. Outside, Michael entered quietly, watching the two of them in silence. He saw the moment unfold, a moment he had waited years to witness. Later that night, Keanu returned home to his mother. She lay resting in her chair, her eyes weary but full of love. When she saw him, her hands shook. "You went, didn't you?" Keanu knelt by her side, taking her hand gently. "Yes, Mom. I saw him. And I told him the truth." Her tears welled. "What truth?" Keanu's voice softened, breaking with emotion. "That I don't hate him. That I will not carry his sins into my life. I will carry only what you gave me. Kindness, humility, resilience." His mother smiled faintly, her lips trembling. "Then you are greater than both of us. You have broken the chain." She squeezed his hand weakly and whispered, "I am proud of you, Keanu." More than words can say. And once again, those words, simple yet powerful, filled his soul. But this time they did not break him into tears of sorrow, they lifted him. They healed the cracks. In that quiet room, holding his mother's fragile hand, Keanu realized something. The past would always remain, but it did not define him. His choices did. He could not rewrite the story of his father, nor erase the mistakes of silence. But he could choose to walk forward with love, with strength, with kindness. The world knew him as an actor, a star, a man of resilience. But in that moment, he was simply a son who had carried pain and turned it into light. His mother closed her eyes, her breathing calm. Keanu whispered softly, "Thank you, Mom, for everything, for all the nights you sacrificed, for the love you never stopped giving. I am who I am because of you." The night grew still, and Keanu sat by her side, his heart heavy yet lightened by truth. For the first time in years, he felt peace. Not because the wounds were gone, but because he had chosen not to let them rule him. The words echoed in his soul, words that had begun this journey and would remain forever. "I'm proud of you.